Hey everyone, George here, the Disney Family Man, coming to you with another video. I have my very good friend, OrangeGrove55. He's been a friend of the channel. We've done a lot of collaborations together. Welcome back, my friend.
Well, thank you for having me, George. I do appreciate it. It's always fun talking Disney, man.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been a while. I mean, we haven't done anything like this in a long time. I mean, aside from yesterday of our collaboration. Definitely check that out. It's a really good listen on OrangeGrove55's channel. Definitely check it out. Which, speaking of which, where can they find you?
They can find me on YouTube, right here on YouTube. If you search OrangeGrove55, I do a lot of similar content to what George here does, but I focus mostly on Anaheim, Disneyland Resort, California Adventure. But I also dip into other stuff. I talk about the MCU and a lot of the streaming stuff and film and stuff like that. So yeah, go ahead and search me. I am on YouTube, OrangeGrove55, and I hope you. Oh, and also George is on my channel all the time. So he's a friend of the channel. He's always on my channel. We always talk Disney together. So you can find him on my channel as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. And today I thought we got a plethora of information to talk about, so let's just dive right in. I thought to start the conversation that I had messaged Orange Grove yesterday of some of the topics we could be talking about today. And lo and behold, one of the ones was more entertainment coming back to the Disney parks. And lo and behold, Disney throws us a curveball and sends us the information today, of all days, that more entertainment is returning to the Disney parks, but more so Walt Disney World, and nothing more so set on Disneyland, which I think is kind of a surprise, but yet not a surprise. It seems like, Walt Disney World has like the forefront nowadays with the information, and Disneyland kind of is on the back burner, so to speak. It's almost like they're trying to push for Walt Disney World, especially like with the 50th going on. Yeah. And so some of the entertainment coming back is the nighttime animation show at Disney's Hollywood Studios. That's right above the Grauman's Chinese Theater, where Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is. Beauty and the Beast live on stage, and for which they also had released the end days for Happily Ever After and Epcot Forever, because Disney's Enchantment will be replacing Happily Ever After, and then Harmonious replacing Epcot Forever due to the 50th anniversary. So being that, even though you're a Disneyland guy, what is your take of, the news that Disney released that these shows are coming back beginning, I believe it starts August 1st and it moves through into September?
I mean, it's not too surprising that they're kind of pushing Walt Disney World right now, because like you mentioned, it is the 50th. I think the official kickoff date is October 1st. So they got to start rolling this stuff out in the months to come. October isn't that far away. Not too shocking, not too shocking. I do find it interesting though that they haven't mentioned anything about Disneyland. We got Mickey's Mixed Magic, which I think is a cute show. I think it was good for what it was. It was good for a celebration of Mickey Mouse, that fun kind of energy for Mickey. It was perfect for that, But I mean, it's like kind of like at this point kind of played out. I would like to see a little bit more of a traditional show at Disneyland. No word on Fantasmic, no word on World of Color at DCA. So that's interesting, but yeah, it is kind of like they are focusing on Walt Disney World. I agree with you. I do think it's 50th related. I think there is a big push right now because of that 50th. I wouldn't mind seeing, look, if Walt Disney World is going to get was it Enchantment? Is that what it's called?
Enchantment.
Enchantment. If they're going to get Enchantment, I wouldn't mind seeing Disneyland getting Happily Ever After. I mean, I know they would have to adjust the production mapping, but I'm sure it would be cheaper than creating a new show. Bring Happily Ever After here. Give us that more a traditional show, and let West Coasters kind of experience that show here at Disneyland while Walt Disney World gets their new show for the 50th. I think it'd be kind of a cool idea,
That is actually a really good idea. Yeah, I think it really wouldn't cost that much at all just to kind of, do the projection mapping for it to fit, a Sleeping Beauty Castle as opposed to how it is for Cinderella Castle. Because that way it will give both coasts the opportunity to experience something, even if it's for a limited time.
Right.
Even if Disneyland is going to get a permanent fireworks show for the time being, they could always have like a limited time release of Happily Ever After before that, that new show comes. And, I think if Disney were to use that creative way, that it's cost saving, but yet you're giving everyone the opportunity to experience, a show that's already existed on the opposite side of the country.
Right. Exactly. It's already gotten rave reviews. People love it in Florida. I've watched it on YouTube. I've gotten goosebumps watching it on YouTube. I can't even imagine what it would be like in person.
Oh, it is in person. It's amazing. And the soundtrack is amazing.
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And Jordan Fisher, he does a great job. And I'm so sorry. I forget the wonderful young lady who does the female vocals. I forgot her name, but she does an amazing job too in that show. Yeah, bring it to Disneyland for a little bit. Why not? I mean, if it's not going to be in Florida for the meantime, let it live a life here in Anaheim instead of like recycling the Mickey's Mixed Magic, which is really, I mean, that was great. Like I said, for the 90th birthday for Mickey.
I think honestly, for Mickey's Mixed Magic, they should just hold on to that and just use that as a tradition every year on Mickey's birthday.
There you go. That works. Absolutely. And interesting to note too, there's been no word, I believe, and I could be wrong in this, but no word on Fantasmic for either coast, right?
No. And actually, I was just going to bring that up because I had answered a tweet that you had posted on Twitter, and it was about the entertainment, why not Disneyland? And for me, I feel like Fantasmic is going to be the very last piece of entertainment that's going to reopen on both coasts for obvious reasons. I do know with Walt Disney World, they had drained the water out, and they're doing heavy, I don't want to call it construction, but work on the mountain area. So I don't know exactly what they are going to be doing. I kind of hope we kind of get an update of the show, more of like the technological aspect of it. And please, for the love of God, can we get Disneyland's dragon? Because ours is, no disrespect for me saying this, but ours looks like a completely outdated, oversized Muppet.
Yeah.
And with all that land that they have, they can get creative with it. And I would love to see, even if it doesn't show up of how it does at Disneyland, even if the dragon still comes out of the mountain, but make it more effective, make it more realistic.
Yeah, I'm really surprised they didn't do that when they, because we got our new dragon in like 2009, I believe. And Disney is really known for building two, because that's why the clone attraction trend is so popular with Disney, is because it's cheaper for them to kind of get to make two than it is to make one, right? Mm-hmm. I'm shocked that they didn't make two of our dragon and have one in Florida. I'm really surprised by that. To this day, it shocks me. I do hope you guys get that better dragon. It definitely does make a difference in the show. Quite a bit of a difference.
Oh, it really does. Because I remember, I mean, I've seen Fantasmic constantly going down to Walt Disney World. And I remember the first time seeing Fantasmic at Disneyland. Actually, my very first time seeing Fantasmic at Disneyland was when you guys had the updated dragon. And I'm just like standing there like, oh my gosh, ours looks like a piece of, and I can't say it because I'm going to keep it friendly. If Vash Sky was on right here, he would beat me. So I'll just yeah. In comparison, Disneyland's dragon, and I want to say, I even think Disneyland's Fantasmic in general beats Walt Disney World because they added that new technology and that new look to it. I just feel that our Fantasmic is a little bit more outdated. It's more 90s than what it should be now. And I really truly hope that the downtime that the show has it'd be a little bit of a disappointment to see it just come back as it was. You know, I would like to see something new added to it.
Yeah, and one of the things, and full disclosure, I haven't seen the Hollywood Studios Fantasmic in person, but from what I know, from what I've seen online, I have experienced Disneyland Fantasmic many, many times in person. But one of the things for me personally, and everyone's different, you know, but one of the things for me personally that I feel kind of makes the Disneyland Fantasmic so magical. I know it sounds so cliche and corny, but so magical and organic is this idea of it kind of erupting out of nowhere. You're right. It's the park that you experience during the day, and it kind of just erupts into this phantasmic spectacle. It's not like a stadium where you go and you sit and you're fully aware it's a show. Fantasmic at Disneyland is more built like the fireworks shows, where it's like a part of your experience during the day that becomes a show at night. I love that about it. And I wish that Florida would have that too. And so I don't know how they can do that, but that's one thing I feel like the Disneyland one has an advantage over the Florida one.
Oh, I completely agree. And I had this conversation on the Grand Circle Tour podcast with my fellow co-podcasters that it brings Disneyland alive. Fantasmic is part of the land rather than you go to Fantasmic. Right. Fantasmic comes to you.
Yes.
That's how I always interpret it between Disneyland and Walt Disney World. Now, I know that, you know, they wanted to add something to Disney's Hollywood Studios, you know, at the time when the park opened as MGM. And so that's where they kind of put in that amphitheater back there. But, I mean, it would have been awesome to have the type of Fantasmic that you guys have, sort of kind of like using Tom Sawyer Island as like that, you know, that threshold of the show. But I have to say, then that would make it seem like, again, apples to oranges. That's where I go out to Disneyland so I can experience Disneyland's version of Fantasmic.
That's true. That's why each resort is different. Yeah, exactly. There's pros and cons to each, and that's what motivates people to go to each resort. If they were the same, there'd be no point.
Exactly. Yes. So I'd like to move on to the next topic, and this implies for both coasts as well. And it's the return of FastPass, and really what could FastPass look like either for one or the other or for both coasts. And I know you and I and even Vaskai and Rudio, we all had, you know, conversations about this on Twitter and on our YouTube channels. But what is your overall concept of how you would see FastPass coming back? Either is it going to be different in the resorts? Is it all going to be the same? What's your take on it?
Well, I definitely think it's not going to be free anymore. I think that those days are over. You know, Disneyland Paris has recently rolled out, I think, some sort of you pay per ride, you know, for these FastPass, for this priority, you know, service. I think that's the future of FastPass. I think it's going to be some sort of paid service. Now that could be, you know, you pay for it monthly, or that could be maybe it's included into the more expensive annual passes or membership programs for the resort. Whatever it is, you're going to pay for FastPass at this point. It's not going to be free anymore. Those days are over. I hate to disappoint people, but that's the reality. So it's going to be a paid service. And I think that that's pretty much the future of it. And it'll be probably, to be honest with you, I don't even know if they're going to have the little paper tickets anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, it's all digital. It's all on your phone, and it's all just, you know, completely on your phone. So digital and paid, I think, is the future for FastPass.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think it would be a dream for all of us to say, oh, yeah, FastPass is going to return the way it was and it be free. That's not a dream. That's going to be a fantasy, because it's like it's done. We're at the point where Disney is never really going to hand out something complimentary. We're done out of it. And I think we were going to end up moving forward to that anyway. But I think with COVID and the shutdown, it just pushed everything that was going to happen in 5 years to the present.
Absolutely. And a lot of other companies have already kind of jumped on this bandwagon. Universal charges for its front of the line passes. A lot of these companies are already doing it, and Disney is sort of the last in line to do it, you know, and they're finally kind of jumping on the bandwagon. Obviously the pricing and the terms and the details are all going to be different, you know, from company to company, but the overall idea will be the same. You're going to pay to get that front of the line access, whether you're at Disney, Universal, or any other park. It's going to cost you. It's definitely going to cost you.
Do you think that it's going to be overly expensive to kind of flush out the crowds of who can really afford the fast pass and then have people in the standby line?
You know, I think a lot of people will probably disagree with me on this, but I kind of hope it is. Like, there's no point in having a fast pass service if everyone's going to do it, because then it's going to be like a standby line then. So you have to have some sort of barrier to entry to limit the amount of people doing it. If it's super, super cheap and super, super affordable, that defeats the purpose. So yeah, it has to be kind of expensive. There has to be some sort of limitation on it. Otherwise, it's not going to be fast. You know?
Yeah.
You know.
And that's the one theory. And then there's also the other theory that would adopt Disneyland's Paris way of doing it is, depending on the attraction, that would depict of what the price is for the fast pass. So if you have something like, I mean, I would hate for someone to pay the amount that they would get on for Flight of Passage to ride the teacups.
Yes. No, yeah, exactly. There should be a tier system to some degree in terms of, like, even if they bring back like a digital ticket book system, you know, you pay this much for E tickets, you pay this much for D tickets, you pay this much for C and B tickets, this much for A tickets. You know, even if they bring back some sort of digital ticket book system, that would work. But yes, I agree. There has to be a tiered thing, because I'm not going to pay the same amount for Indiana Jones Adventure or Rise of the Resistance that I'm going to pay for Dumbo. I mean, that's ridiculous, you know? And really, even, like, I'll be honest with you, and I might be completely different than a lot of annual pass holders, but like, as a frequent visitor to Disneyland, as a legacy pass holder.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got to put legacy in front of it. You have to.
Legacy pass holder. I went to the parks because I love being at the parks. I didn't go so I can hit some sort of ride quota. And it's different because I was a pass holder. It's different than when you're paying, you know, as a vacationer, you know. But for me, Fast Pass was never a big part of my equation. Like, I'm fine hitting 2 rides or 3 rides a trip. I'm fine with getting there at 8 in the morning and leaving at 2:30 in the afternoon, you know, as a pass holder. So I don't even know, like, this doesn't really super affect me. Like, if I'm with somebody that has never been on Indiana Jones, never been on Rise of the Resistance, then yes, we'll pay for those fast passes to make sure that the people in my party that's never been on those cool attractions can experience them. But for me personally, it's like, I'm not going to sit here and dish out a huge amount of money for fast passes for attractions I've been on a million times, you know?
Mm-hmm. And especially with attractions, like for me being at Walt Disney World for 2 weeks, that if you have that lengthy amount of stay where you can have the opportunity to ride the ride, you know, multiple times, why put out that extra money?
Right, exactly.
And like, for example, like going to Animal Kingdom, starting out the day, it was Flight of Passage was 145 minutes. So we didn't even get to ride it that day. So that would be a ride that I would be interested in paying for the Fast Pass. The rest of the rides, we were on Expedition Everest 3 times within 15 minutes. You know, so why pay for a Fast Pass when you can get on it 3 times in 15 minutes?
Right, exactly.
For the day.
Exactly. So I think a lot of the fear, like with fans of, like, oh, they're charging for fast passes. I think a lot of it's unwarranted. I mean, I think that, like, really realistically, you don't need to do a fast pass for every single attraction. Okay, there's only like 2 or 3 like marquee attractions that are going to be massive waits that you'll probably have to do it for. And if you're a frequent visitor to the parks, you can skip it too, you know? Like, I've been on Rise of the Resistance now 2 times. If I go to the park and I don't get on it, it's fine. You know, like it's not the end of the world.
That's how I was too. We went to Hollywood Studios 3 times during our trip. And in my head, I thought, well, let's try to get Rise of the Resistance for all 3 days. We got it 2 out of the 3. And on that 3rd day, I was like, I'm not even going to try for it. You know, we're good. Let's go do something else. Like, let's do an extra ride on Tower of Terror or Rock and Roller Coaster or something. Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
But I do think it's kind of funny that people are kind of up in arms if Disney was to go back to the system. But in all actuality, this is how Disney started out with the ticket. The E ticket, the D ticket, the C ticket. That's how it started out. So if you go back to through the Disney history, this is nothing new for the company.
No, it's not. Like at Disneyland, when Disneyland opened in 1955, you had to pay like a nickel or something. And mind you, these are 1955 prices, but you would pay like a nickel or a dime to ride the omnibus, right? Mm-hmm. You would pay you know, whatever to get onto the various modes of transportation. This was common during the first year, those early years of Disneyland. So we've kind of come in a weird way full circle. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it really has. And I never thought I'd see the day that those tickets would come back, but I think they're going to be coming.
Yeah.
So we just have to look out for it. And then my other topic I had is kind of a touchy subject, but I think that we should discuss it because, you know, it's in today's time, you know, and everyone is wondering, you know, how it's going to become is the mandates being re-implemented back into the Disney parks. Now, I do know on both coasts, you know, between the states of California and Florida, you know, they have different ways of running things, you know, through a business standpoint, through a political standpoint, you know. So I don't know exactly if the mandates would come out the same way, but, you know, at the end of the day, we don't know what's going to happen. And LA County has already implemented the mask mandate for indoors back for Universal and SeaWorld.
Well, SeaWorld is San Diego County, so it would actually just affect, I believe LA County would only affect Universal.
Universal, okay.
Yeah.
So, and no news as of right now with Orange County.
Right.
Both Orange Counties, actually, because lo and behold, Disneyland and Walt Disney World both have an Orange County. So, you know, that's very interesting. So what are your thoughts as far as, do you think that Disney would kind of go backwards in the sense of re-implementing these mandates, or do you think Disney's just going to keep moving forward, and how do you see it?
Well, I think if the states mandate it, Disney's going to play ball. You know, they're going to play ball. Florida, I mean, it's looser out there. Like, are they mandating masks again in Florida?
Based on what Governor DeSantis did, as far as with the he signed something that cannot. They can make a decision, but it's up to the individual of whether or not they are comfortable with doing so. Now, I don't know how it goes with individual private businesses.
Right.
Because then that would be their business. But as far as the state as a whole, that mayors can strongly suggest, but they cannot enforce.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, look, I mean, for me personally, and I can speak just for my personal experience and preference. If the economy stays open, things are open, movie theaters are open, stores are open, dining is open, theme parks are open, and the worst thing I have to do is wear a mask, I'll do it. I don't really care. The mask thing doesn't bother me too much, to be honest with you. Now, I will say this though, there is a caveat. I'm in Southern California. We don't have the humidity and the wetness or the stickiness that Florida has. It's a different situation with the heat than it is in Florida. It might be a lot more uncomfortable and kind of nasty to have a mask on when there's like, you know, 80% humidity and you're dripping wet. I haven't experienced that. For me personally, though, in California, with the masks that you can buy now, the cloth ones are like basically like t-shirt material. They're comfortable. They're fine. If Disney's asking me, hey, wear a mask when you go into the stores, I'll do it. In Florida, though, it is different. I mean, how like you've been obviously to Orlando. Is it hard with a mask with the humidity? I mean, is it really, really uncomfortable, or is it doable?
I actually experienced with both. My wife and I went to Walt Disney World last October for her birthday, and that's when masks were mandated indoors and outdoors. I was just so happy to be back after that 1 year of the shutdown that I didn't care at that point. And with it being in October, it was hot, but the humidity wasn't overabundance. Now, this past trip of going down in July, we only had to use our mask if fully vaccinated, only on transportation, which would be the monorail, the Skyliner, and the buses. See, I almost forgot the buses. See, it shows how much I don't really care too much about the buses. I love the Skyliner. Yeah, so that was the only thing. At the time of just wearing them, it was a short amount of time, so I can't really say it was too much for me. Now, there were days where it was over 90 degrees, added with humidity, and we were just soaking, dripping wet of sweat, and we didn't even have our masks on.
Wow.
So I don't know exactly how. We probably would have had to take more breaks, you know. So, I mean, if something were to come back, God forbid, I think that they would more so start it indoors than just outdoors and indoors.
Yeah. And yeah, Florida, also another added aspect to the Florida experience is the rain. We don't really get rain in California. We just don't, unfortunately. I wish we would, because it gets really dry and kind of ugly out here with the dry brush and everything. I wish we would get more rain. But Florida does. They get rain like every day. Like, 5 o'clock, it just torrential downpour every day. So that's another added aspect to the mask. Like, you're wearing a mask and then it's soaking wet from the rain and the humidity. It's different. But look, I mean, even if I was in Florida, I would much prefer to have to pony up, wear a mask, than to have to go through another lockdown, shutdown where the parks aren't even open, or, I can't go to my local theater, or I can't go to my local restaurant. If the worst of it is just wearing a mask, you know what? I'll man up and do it. I don't care.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I think we're all kind of in that same boat, that if we had to pick and choose, we would prefer to just mask up in certain designated areas rather than have a complete global shutdown again, where no one can go anywhere, do anything, and, let it be that.
Yeah.
So now getting to our final topic for today, I thought we'd talk a little bit more about Disneyland Forward. Now, all you folks watching and listening out there is, why are you talking about something that we don't even know is going to happen or what it's going to be? Because no one necessarily knows. But I just thought it would be kind of fun just to kind of get what the possibilities could be. And it may not even be anything that Disney had released on their own. Like, it could just be in our, wacky minds of what Disneyland Forward could entail. So what would, for you, when you think of Disneyland Forward, what concepts would you see as far as the possibilities go for the resort?
Well, I do want to preface this by saying that I think that the move for Imagineering to, from Glendale, or at least some of the Imagineers from Glendale to Lake Nona, Florida, I think that does give the Disneyland Forward project a little more leverage. I don't want to get too much into this, but I do think that puts pressure on Anaheim and California, which to see these jobs leaving the state, and the focus, being Florida, I think that kind of puts a little pressure on Anaheim to be kind of play ball with Disney a little more than they usually would, because, hey, look, you know what? Disney's like, hey, look, we got a shiny new creative campus over there in Lake Nona, Florida. Anaheim, you don't want to play ball with us? Then we'll focus on Orlando. And we can just kind of rest on our laurels here in Anaheim. I think Anaheim is noticing that. So I do think the chances of Disneyland Forward, plus the new mayor, plus the more friendly the Disney friendly city council. I do think Disneyland Forward will happen. With that said, what I do want to see from Disneyland Forward, and this is like, I'm pretty ambitious when it comes to Disneyland Resort. I do think that sometimes Disney is sort of, I don't know, and fans too, they're sort of defeatist in a lot of ways. Like, build a third park, go big, go bold with Disneyland. This is the first park that was ever made. This is this is Walt Disney's park. Have a little ambition, you know? And it's like, this is the thing that bothers me. It's like a lot of fans, like if I would have told fans 20 years ago, right? Oh, you know what? We're going to build, I think we should build a 15-acre Star Wars land behind the rivers of America. You would have heard people in the fandom and everywhere say, well, you can't do that, Orange Grove. You can't do that because there's backstage areas. They need those areas. Well, let's see we saw what happened, right? They didn't end up needing them that badly. They ended up bulldozing them and building Batuu. I think if Disney wants to do something, they'll make it happen, you know? And I think we should have this mindset as fans and as the Disney company of like not sort of falling back on this like lazy kind of mindset of there's no room. You can make room. There's always room if you get creative, you know? So I want to see a third park at Disneyland Resort in the Toy Story lot. I do want to see expansions of Disneyland and DCA into that whole area where the hotels are. We saw that. Actually, I'll show you right now to kind of give your viewers a little bit of a this is where the hotels are. This is actually Disneyland Hotel right here. This right here is the Paradise Pier Hotel. I want to see this. I want to see the DCA expansion happen here. I want to see the Disneyland expand into here. I love this little entry plaza, this little second esplanade to this whole new expansion pad. I want to see this stuff happen along with a third park, you know?
Yes. Why stop just at the expansion of the existing two parks? Go balls to the wall, add a third gate because Disneyland Resort needs it.
They need it. Exactly. Exactly. There's definitely a market here for it. I mean, fans have complained for years that the parks are so busy. Well, there's obviously a lot of demand here for Disney parks in California. Like people have said, we have a bajillion people here in Southern California. Build a third park, expand DCA, expand Disneyland, have a little ambition. And that's one thing that frustrates me with Disney a lot of times is they just don't, I don't know what it is. I really don't know what it is.
Let's just call it what it is. They just don't.
They just don't. Exactly. They just don't have the faith here. And I did a video recently, George, on this whole topic about how Disney sort of falls back. Like they want to make Disneyland Anaheim a resort, right? Yeah. But the minute any kind of obstacle comes forth, it's immediately met with, okay, well, we're going to give California residents a discount. Why? Why do you do that? You're cementing the mindset in the populace that, you know what, Disneyland is a California's locals park.
And then they end up saying that, okay, well, it doesn't add up to the amount of space and room that Walt Disney World has. Well, clearly you have the room, so just do it. This could actually add on another 2 to 3 days of a person's vacation at Disneyland.
Right, exactly. And if we're going to go by the mindset of like, we can't do it or we shouldn't do it because we don't have the same space as Florida, then no Disney resort in the world should ever expand because no Disney resort in the world has the space that Florida has. So I think you just have to make do with what you have. And I think Disney...
Stop comparing. They have to stop comparing.
Right.
They have to just let Disneyland be Disneyland, as you said, for what it is, what they got, use it, and let Walt Disney World be Walt Disney World.
Yeah, and you know what? There's pros and cons to each kind of approach, right? Like Disneyland is a smaller resort, and the con to that is that we have to be more cognizant of our sight lines, like the outside world coming into our Disney experience. But the pro to a smaller resort is that once you're here at Disneyland Resort, There's no buses. There's no Uber. There's no Lyft. You walk to DCA. You walk to Disneyland. You walk to Disneyland, and downtown Disney. You walk to the hotels. Everything's walking. So there are pros and cons, and Disney needs to learn to lean on that and understand that just because it's not the same doesn't mean it's bad. There are pros and cons to each approach, and just lean on that and just do the best you can with it. So we'll see what happens. I do think, though, regardless whether a third park happens, whether it doesn't happen, I do think Disneyland Forward will happen. I just think that the lockdown situation in Anaheim with Newsom, how the economy was in the tank after that, I do think Disney's gained a lot of leverage in these negotiations. And also, I do think that the move to Lake Nona increases that leverage. So I think Disneyland Forward will definitely happen. What will become of it, though, what we'll get from it, who knows? We'll see,
Yeah. And, it will change in time, even by the time that Disneyland Forward does go forward, no pun intended, that years from now, more movies will be out, more stuff on Disney Plus. So the sky's the limit with that. And, to add a third park and expanding Disneyland and Disney California Adventure, I'd walk the extra miles to get to that third park and the expansion of the parks. And I think Disney fans will do so as well, along with me. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? Borrow. Look, Disney, if you're watching this video, borrow. No idea is ever dead. Borrow from your Westcott concepts of a people mover transportation through the resort. Borrow ideas and elements from that original Westcott Disneyland Resort concept. Obviously, everything won't be able to be utilized because obviously things are already built and spoken for. But there are elements of that original design work that you can implement in any new expansion. Use that. You've already drawn it up. You've already have the plans for it. Use it, So it has potential. We'll see what happens. I do think it will happen, though. I do think that Anaheim has really woken up to the fact that they need Disneyland. This shutdown has really opened a lot of eyes, I think.
I agree. I really do. And I think to take a negative and turn it into a positive, and I think Disney has taken the proper approach to do so, to get back on that bandwagon and stand up on their own 2 feet again. And I think this actually, the move to Lake Nona, reopening the parks back up, I think this will assist with Disneyland Forward in the future. So
I completely agree. I completely agree. And I think that we'll have to keep an eye out. From what I understand, it's going to be about 18 months for the approval. So we'll see how that pans out. And now,
was that 18 months from the day they actually announced Disneyland Forward?
Yeah, it was 18 months from when they actually when they announced it back in March. So we should hear probably in a year or so. Probably by next D23, we'll probably know. And
what's actually funny is 18 months from March is September. And the expo is September 9th to the 11th.
Oh, is it? Yeah, see? Yeah. I bet you by that next D23 Expo, we have word on Disneyland Forever, and we'll probably get some news as to what they're going to put there.
And lo and behold, it's going to be about the 100 years of the Walt Disney Company in general. So what a better way to have that parks division to say, hey, we are going to expand Disneyland with a third park, an expansion of the parks, the downtown Disney district. I mean, that would have been bellissimo.
Yeah, it really would. It really would. I think it would be absolutely fantastic. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But exciting times. I do think, to close out, I do think Lake Nona is a very, very positive thing for Orlando. I think that you guys need Imagineers closer to the ground in Orlando to kind of design stuff for Orlando, because a lot of times the Imagineers are Southern Californians trying to design stuff for Florida, which is a completely different animal in terms of weather and things like that. So it's good. You'll have your own team over there. We'll have our team over here. It's a positive. we'll see where it goes. But I think overall it'll be good for both resorts.
Yeah, and yeah, I was just going to say, I think it would also help Disneyland as well, because that way those Imagineers can focus just on the rich history of Disneyland and focus on Disneyland Forward. So I think that would really help both coasts.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But I want to thank you for joining me today. I think we had a nice in-depth conversation of all these topics, and you're always welcome back to the channel whenever you like. I enjoy your company. I enjoy our Disney discussions. And real quick, if you could remind people again where they could find you.
Thank you so much, Disney Family Man. I appreciate you having me on, and you are also always welcome on my channel. And you can find me on YouTube, OrangeGrove55. And I do content much like George, but I focus mostly on Anaheim. But I do dip into the other stuff. I dip into streaming and film and things like that. But yeah, check me out over at Orange Grove. I do a lot of similar content as Mr. Family Man over here. But thank you, George. I appreciate having me on, man.
Thank you. And as always, folks, remember, stay healthy, stay safe, stay Disney. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.